Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting episode of the W2 Report. Today we are taking a look at the Activision Microsoft merger, and hopefully we will sort some things out with you. Before we do that, let us go over the ground rules with Lord Crocosquirrel.
Rule 1, don't be a dick. Rule 2, if in doubt, please refer to rule number 1.
Alright, let us take a look at today's meme, which is something from Jay Leno from all people.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Is that who was quoted? Holy shit.
Yes.
Oh, that's just wrong.
Yes, it comes from a newspaper called The Speak Out, which is an article in a newspaper. To quote it, "To all you hunters who kill animals for food, shame on you. You ought to go to the store and buy the meat that was made there, where no animals were harmed.
Okay. Meat is animal muscle tissue. That's just the way it works. Yes, we've actually managed to. Yes, somebody has actually managed to grow a steak in a lab, but unless you want to be paying, what is it, several $1 million per ounce, no. You could bankrupt half of Hollywood for a 4-ounce steak. It's fucking scary.
Now, we do have some little bit of business before we go into the heart of the matter, and that is when Microsoft made the announcement that they were buying Activision Blizzard.
Activision, at least. Blizzard should go along with, but
yeah. But the thing about this is that, all right. The thing about this is that Sony, of all people, said, wait a minute, there's something fishy going on here.
Because there is something fishy going on there.
So with that,
previous behavior says that Sony's going to get fucked in the ass.
Yes. So
and Sony doesn't want to be bent over and raped by Microsoft.
So without further ado, here is Sony's response to the European Union regulators who are overseeing the Microsoft Sony deal.
Actually, I think that's specifically the UK, but Europe generally tends to do things in roughly the same way.
Yeah. I figure if one blocks it, the rest will. But here's
right now we're wondering if the FTC is going to sue to make sure make sure that Sony doesn't get completely boned, because everybody thinks of Sony as a Japanese company. It is not. It hasn't been for a few years now.
Right.
They have. They've gone the way of the dodo. They shut down Japan studios, etc., etc., etc. But they moved their asses off to California from Tokyo. What, 4 or 5 years ago now?
Yeah.
They have an the last couple of presidents have been American.
Hmm.
And the Xbox is doing better in Japan than the PlayStation.
Actually, to walk back a little bit what you said, I think Andrew House was UK.
It doesn't matter.
He was a Brit.
Still not Japanese. The last time I saw a Japanese, I saw a Japanese critter in charge over there was back in was right before the launch of the PlayStation 4, and those machines are actually quite old now.
Right. I have a first gen.
It's kind of PS4. A thing, you know. That's just the way things are. But yeah, Kazuhito, infamous for his, I want to lend a game to my buddy. Here, have a disc. Thing was just absolutely fucking classic. Microsoft got its dick nails to all 5 walls in a square room. 5 different walls in a square room.
It was just.
We don't talk. Funnily enough, I still refer to this white box on my desk as an Xbox, and that was quite the joke at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they put out the Xbox Series X, they did the same shit again. That was fucking hilarious. And and funnily enough, the gaming public ate that shit up.
Oh yeah. All right. Before we go into this document here, there is a disclaimer we have to make. We're not lawyers. We're just reading this. We're just reading this based off our observations and our knowledge of the legal system.
She studied all this shit. And we asked her for her opinion before she wandered off.
But we do know who is, and he just got through with a premiere not too long ago. That discusses this very subject.
Go visit the Hogue of Law after we're done here.
Yes,
I'm sure he'll enjoy the views.
Of course he will.
And we'll be nice and post the link in the chat at the end of the stream.
Or we can make it a pinned comment. Doesn't matter.
We could do that too. Put it in the description, whatever. Assuming of course if you ever get around to putting up the pinned comment, which you rarely do.
Well, I can't do it on a live stream before the live stream.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem to get done afterwards either.
Yeah, that's true. All right, let's go over this document, shall we?
Description in real time.
Let's go over this document, shall we? Sony.
Just get to the juicy bit.
Okay. Let's start on page 7. I believe that's where it was.
7.
Here we go. Paragraph 14. We're going to start from there.
That's page
Microsoft.
8, I think.
What?
Yes, I believe that's page 8, but that's okay. Go for it.
No, that's page 7.
Is it?
It's 8. It's 8 on the PDF.
Well,
I know. You have to have a cover sheet, just like a fax machine.
Rude. Anyway.
Microsoft claims that Nintendo's differentiated model demonstrates that PlayStation does not need Call of Duty to compete effectively. Microsoft. This reveals Microsoft's true strategy. Microsoft wants PlayStation to be like Nintendo, so that it would be a less close and less effective competitor to Xbox. Post-transaction, Xbox would be the one-stop shop for all the best shooter franchises on console. They quote Call of Duty, Halo, Gears of War, Doom, and Overwatch.
All of which are currently owned by Microsoft with the exception of the first and last.
Right. As the decision explains, and it would and would then be free from serious competitive pressure. 15. In short, Activision's games, in particular Call of Duty, are critical to PlayStation. The franchise is firmly entrenched in gamers' psyche. Every installment since Call of Duty was first released back in 2003 has consistently topped the charts. Call of Duty has become synonymous with the first-person shooter category, and it's the benchmark against which all other first-person shooter games are measured. Through its 20-year existence, no game has managed to rival Call of Duty's brand loyalty and network. Nothing covered by the CMA during its thorough Phase 1 review suggests this is likely to change in the future. B.
Possible.
B. Microsoft has not committed to continue to make Call of Duty available on PlayStation and PlayStation Plus.
Which they're probably going to need to do in order to actually get it. The thing is that PlayStation relies just as much on Blizzard games in some cases. Diablo 4, and Overwatch 2. Those things are big. I can't imagine why Overwatch 2 is big, but after all the bullshit that Blizzard pulled. But we can expect Diablo to be purchased regardless of circumstances by the average punter. I don't intend to.
No.
If somebody sends it to me, I'll cover it, but I'm not going to play it extensively. I bought Diablo 3, got pissed off at it the first 3 hours and said, fuck.
That's not even considering the fact that Diablo Immortal exists, which we covered in extension.
Yeah, well, we talked about Diablo and its price tag quite some time ago.
Yeah.
This merger here looks like it's going to looks like it is not just vertical but horizontal as well, which means we're going to wind up with Microsoft grabbing and maintaining a monopoly that they can use to prop up their own games division. Uh, was it Xbox Games and 343 Studios? Yeah, let's do that, shall we? What's the unholy fuck? No. That's just the way this is. What Microsoft is looking for is to maintain its monopoly power. Period. They told us that they told the ZeniMax that they weren't going to interfere with releases.
And they
We are,
interfered with releases anyway.
and they did it anyway. We may see Starfield on Steam, but it'll be on Xbox Game Pass and in the Windows Store almost guaranteed. I would not be surprised if they cut Steam out too. Epic doesn't. I don't think Epic's even going to be able to get hold of it at this point. But if they continue on the way they're doing, you're looking at least a timed exclusive, and it might just be strictly exclusive. And what does PlayStation seem to do better than Microsoft at every turn? RPGs.
Right. 16. Microsoft's second argument on TOH1 is that Microsoft has offered Sony as quote offered Sony a contractual commitment to keep supplying it with Call of Duty, including new releases and feature and content parity. But no contractual protections can ever provide proper protections against a foreclosure strategy, which is why the CMA's guidelines emphasize that the CMA should, quote, not place material weight on contractual protections in a foreclosure case. Besides,
because they can actually say they actually specify that as long as it makes sense, which means if PlayStation sales somehow manage to outstrip Xbox sales, they can go, well, this doesn't make any goddamn sense, and then shut it all down. And the only thing Sony can do at that point is cry about it.
Right. Besides, Microsoft has badly mischaracterized its offer. Microsoft's proposal has 3 significant shortcomings. Parity. Microsoft redacted. An equal commitment on PlayStation and Xbox is essential to maintain effective competition and ensure a level playing field. Multi-game subscription services. Microsoft has not agreed to make Call of Duty and other Activision titles available on PlayStation Plus, much less on terms that would be fair and competitive. On the contrary, they made it clear publicly that they intend to make Call of Duty available only on Game Pass and have said that if SIE is concerned, it should permit Game Pass on PlayStation consoles.
Because which it is not going to do. Absolutely fracking not, because why would you? Because that's supposed to be competition. Okay, why would you want Sony to pull for the competition? Why do you want to demand that the competition support your shit? No, that's not the way that works. That's not competition. That's you making Sony your bitch. That's never gonna happen.
Because, continuing on, because SIE's multi-game subscription services is critical to its future competitiveness, access to Call of Duty on PlayStation Plus is essential. Likewise, other multi-game subscription services require Call of Duty to compete effectively.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, no. What they're looking to do is get Game Pass to replace, PlayStation Now, and then not give them, and then shaft them for the money.
Right.
Either they're going to increase the price on for PlayStation users and give Sony a small cut, or they're going to they're going to insist that you go to Microsoft to buy your Game Pass subscription, and then what the fuck does Sony do? They've got to support the infrastructure, and they get nothing out of it, because I don't think Microsoft's going to differentiate aside from price tag Game Pass subscriptions. Why would they do that? So if I go to the Windows Store and I sign up for $15 a month for Game Pass, and then I can just log on to Sony shit and use it that way, what's in it for Sony?
Exactly.
And they still lose all, and then they still lose all of the money from sales of copies of Call of Duty. Yeah, yeah.
Let's not do that.
Benefit? Sony gets no benefit out of this, and they're supporting their competitors directly. It's costing them to do this. Fuck that.
Right. Duration. Microsoft has offered to continue making Activision games available on PlayStation until 2027.
Only until 2027. And this is what they told the UK regulators. I think they told the US regulators 10 years.
Yeah.
But we're looking at sometime thereafter the PlayStation 6, which is going to leave that poor beast out in the fucking cold.
Likewise,
Sony's argument is that ActiBliz needs to remain independent, whether it wants to be sold or not. And it seems like they do actually want to be sold, especially with Bobby Kotick in charge.
Of course.
Of course, Bobo needs to go the way of the dinosaur. That fucker's compensation is so high, he's going to put Elon Musk in the poorhouse.
Yeah.
What the unholy fuck? And just to add insult to injury, ActiBliz has been taking money in income taxes from the U.S. government. They get a refund every fucking year. How the hell does that work?
That is a thing that should not be.
Well, when Elon has to write a $5 billion check, and Donald Trump has to write like $1.5 billion or $2 billion, you gotta wonder what form of clever accounting has to go into getting Activision and EA and a bunch of the other big ones completely out of the taxes, and the government paying them hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
Right.
And yes, this information is publicly available.
Likewise,
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah. Likewise, in public comments, just on October 26, 2022, Microsoft said that it plans to offer Call of Duty on PlayStation only, quote, as long as that makes sense. A period of 2027 or sometime, possibly shorter time, that Microsoft unilaterally deems makes sense is badly inadequate. By the time
inadequate? No, that's Microsoft with fuck you privilege. That's what that is.
Continuing on. By the time SIE launched the next generation of its PlayStation console, which is likely to occur after 2027, it would have lost
around redacted. But we already know that if you take that 7 years, we're looking at 2028-ish. 2027, 2028 out to at longest 2030, because that'll be 10 years of PlayStation 5, and we got 7 years.
7 years out of 4. 7 years out
For
of
about
3.
a decade or so out of PlayStation 3. Right now, console generation is running 6 to 8 years.
Right,
But it looks like the PlayStation 6 is already in development, which should say something.
right. Continuing on. Even assuming that SIE had the ability and resources to develop a similarly successful franchise to Call of Duty, it would take many, many years and billions of dollars to create a challenger to Call of Duty. And the example of EA's Battlefield shows that any such efforts would more than likely be unsuccessful. "17. More generally, Microsoft's past conduct shows that its public utterances should be treated with extreme skepticism. The decision identifies 5 separate transactions: ZeniMax, Obsidian, inXile, Ninja Theory, Compulsion, where Microsoft acquired game studios and then made their upcoming releases exclusive to Xbox. This conduct occurred despite Microsoft's assurances to the public and regulators that it would not make ZeniMax content exclusive. Microsoft CEO of gaming, Phil Spencer, publicly explained the rationale for Microsoft's bait and switch as follows: "This is about delivering great exclusive games for Xbox customers that ship on platforms where Game Pass exists. That is our goal. That is why we're doing this. That is the root of the partnership we are building." There it is, in black and white. "18. Phil Spencer's comments about Microsoft's exclusive strategy for Bethesda content are powerful evidence that Microsoft has the same playbook in mind for Activision. In fact, the decision finds that Microsoft pursued its exclusivity strategy with content that is far less valuable than Activision's. The decision explains that this means that Microsoft would have an even stronger incentive to make its content exclusive post-transaction. This is a compelling point that Microsoft does not address." And as we took a look at the footnotes, we're going to highlight point 24 here. At the time, Microsoft told investors that it highly encouraged cross-platform play and did not have any intention of just pulling all of Bethesda's content out of SIE. See Seeking Alpha, Microsoft Corporation's Management presents Jeffrey's Interactive Entertainment Virtual Conference transcript from November 12th, 2020. Microsoft told the European Convention at the time that it would not have the incentive to cease or limit Bethesda's games available for purchase on rival consoles. That is the Commission decision as of March 5th, 2021. And I think that's the long and short of the argument that Sony is making here.
Yep. Because
So-
yeah, that's the biggest part of the highlight reel for this.
So going into the analysis of Sony's comments and this quote right here. And this quote about Game Pass. Do you think, actually, we all think that Microsoft's strategy for Activision is the same as the Bethesda's strategy. But do you think that this is 100% of what Microsoft is planning?
Oh, I'm gonna have fun when they decide to buy EA. That's gonna be terrifying.
Yeah, because right now they let the Bethesda deal pass through. They let the Obsidian deal pass through. They let Ninja Theory pass through. Compulsion pass through. And now Sony's making their stand on Activision.
Well, again, first they came for Alex Jones. Once they got away with that, they got all the rest of them.
Right.
Okay, and if there's no one left to speak for you, because because eventually it'll be your turn. I'm waiting for Microsoft to grab EA and then make a play for Sony.
Wow.
That's what because honestly, Microsoft has been doing this now for most of for longer than I've been alive. Because we originally saw Microsoft was originally existed in back in the early 1970s.
Okay.
I think Basic was actually listed in 1970. But they've used licensing deals and all sorts of other fun things to get what they want, and generate all of the monopoly power they can make happen. Okay, the story of QuickDOS. Go look that up. The guy that made it lived in Bellevue, and that guy got screwed. I mean, seriously, fucked.
Yep.
Building up he built a disk operating system for IBM PCs, and Bill went in and licensed it, and then got around to buying that, and then eventually, through alterations in the deal, wound up owning the guy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But the core of QuickDOS is still present. If you go back to versions of MS-DOS, it's still there. It is still. You're gonna find the old QuickDOS code, assuming, of course, you've got any way to decompile it, because the shit was written in weird. Anyway, back down to it. Microsoft has been doing this 50 some odd years.
Yeah.
And by the time anybody figured out what the fuck was actually going on, death, dismemberment, and destruction had occurred, and Microsoft was too big to stop. Hell, the original Windows 1.0, Bill and Steve had managed to get their hands on a Mac development kit. And then they did everything they could to copy it without actually infringing the trademark. And Jobs had no idea what the hell was going on. I think he suspected, but yeah, graphical user interfaces, hell. But then Steve Jobs was in on that too. He actually stole the mouse. He actually stole the mouse concept from HP. But yeah, no, this is a cutthroat type of business, and if Microsoft can find a way to cut throats, they'll do it peacefully, quietly. They'll enjoy it. And of course, the folks running Microsoft have considerably more money than brains, because this is going to cost them a shit ton. No matter what happens, this is going to cost them a bundle of money. I don't know how much they're buying Activision for, but I guarantee you they're going to be paying somewhere in the neighborhood of what Musk did for Trigger.
Well, we can find out real quick. They paid $68.7 billion.
Yep, more. But of course, but then they're not a single individual either. That's a lot of fucking money.
Right. So, with that out of the way, what's Sony's next move now?
Sony sues the shit out of Microsoft and tries to get the FTC and European regulators to go, no, we're not going to do that. Just that. That is a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. Well, this whole thing's a terrible idea because, quite frankly, Activision's much too big to not create a competition problem, especially given Microsoft's past behavior. I don't know how much. I don't remember how much they paid for ZeniMax. Let me check. Yeah, only $7.5 billion for Bethesda.
Right.
And that was last year. They're doing the rest. They're doing all of the shit from there.
Right, because I think we can all agree that Microsoft is building a monopoly on Game Pass and cloud services.
Yep, because because somebody's gone all in on this is the future of gaming. And we don't need them to do that.
I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess, but it'll take years to clean up.
It's a mess that shouldn't need cleaned up. Just cut this deal off at the knees, or force Microsoft to play ball with Sony, unless they can find some way to remove Sony from the market completely through a natural monopoly.
Which isn't going to happen anytime soon. I mean, Nintendo naturally got cut off, granted. But
well, no, actually, I'm pretty sure Nintendo did that shit on purpose. That is my suspicion. When they put together the Switch, they're going, okay, you know what? We're not doing that. They were competing up until they fired up the Wii, and then when the Wii U tanked and you were not getting nearly you weren't actually going to be able to get as much out of it as most other things. They said, okay, you know what? Fuck this. We've been doing the handheld market really, really, really well for a really long time. How about we put together a handheld that could be used on the TV without any extra hardware? Let's do that. And thus the Switch was born, because it can switch between handheld mode and docked mode. And docked mode turns it into something resembling a traditional console. Yay.
Right.
They go back to a cartridge format, which they absolutely adored, all the way up until the Nintendo 64. They take all the other bullshit out. They put together their store and say, okay, here we go, guys. Let's do it. We don't want to compete with Sony and Microsoft because we can capture a market that we can capture markets that they just don't seem to want. And that's exactly what happened. The Switch is still on top of this console generation, and it'll stay there. But Microsoft is currently kicking the ass off of Sony because most of the PlayStation 5's library is PS4 games, PS3 and 4 games.
Right.
Who wants to play that old thing? Me, goddammit.
Me, goddammit.
Fuck you for thinking it. And fuck you for thinking it. Let's get the rest of the old library out. Now, kid.
All right. I think that will about do it for us here today.
Well, it
We've been
makes for
going
a good
on.
hot take. You might want to check out what Hoaglaw is broke it all down. If you've got an hour or so to blow, then
Yeah.
or well, assassinate anyway. Go check that out because he's much better at the legal stuff than I am. I have some. I got a briefing on what the economics would look like, but beyond that, not a whole. We don't have a whole lot more to say on the process.
Right, because we don't know the process. Hoglaw does.
That's what he does. He does copyright and trademark law. That's what he does. That's what he does in courts.
And it will be the pinned comment in the chat. So if you have like an hour to spare, feel free to give him a watch. He's very knowledgeable, and I will bow to his knowledge in this situation.
That's okay. We're gonna punch Sanji in the nose if he doesn't get that into the description.
Well, it's in the chat.
It's
in the chat in case. It's in the chat and chat replays on. So yay. So with that said, I have been Sanji Himura and joined by Lord Crockett Squirrel, and we will see you guys on the next W2 report. Next week we should be talking Earth 2 again. Because Shane Isaac made some screw ups.
What does Shane Isaac not screw up? I want to know that.
Well,
somebody explain that to me.
So, that was a little teaser. In 2 weeks, we will have another episode of Hotcakes.
Ooh, where we grab a bunch of stories and go, "Oh, this is cool."
Of course. And we give our hot takes on news stories throughout the week here today. Throughout the week, next week. So if you have a news story, feel free to drop it in the comments. We will give our hot takes on that one in 2 weeks. So with that out of the way, I am Sanji Imura, and we will see you next time.